Hey, Andrea. So it's getting cold, and I notice people are getting sick and they're getting the flu. So, it's important that we try and keep healthy and keep our immunity strong and just get rest and hydrate and take care of ourselves, wash our hands and just do what we can. But something else we can do to stay safe this winter is use Chapter 1's immunity gummies. They provide children with nutritional support for a healthy immune system and general wellness. They have elderberry, zinc, and vitamin C, which for me is the trifecta in, fighting a cold or when you feel down, in a most delicious, kid-friendly flavored gummy. They are free of peanuts, tree nuts, dairy, gluten, soy, and egg, and are manufactured and bottled in the United States. And of course, they're kosher.
For a limited time, Zoller is offering 20% off your immunity gummy purchase on Amazon with the code IMMUNITY20. That's all caps, IMMUNITY, and then the numerals 2 and 0.
So, Indra, in episode 51, where we talked about picky eaters, we spoke to Yael Friedman, who has a company called Kitchen Giggles, where they deliver kosher meal kits for kids in Los Angeles. So Yael wanted to let our listeners know that she has recipe cards that are fully illustrated so that you can prep and cook along with your child at home, and pre-readers can now take the lead in the kitchen. Illustrated ingredient labels are also available so you can prep the ingredients beforehand so you and your child can create healthy meals together.
That sounds great. And Kitchen Giggles is now offering 15% off for Let My People Eat listeners. So use the code LMPERECIPES, that's LMPE recipes at checkout, and go to www.Kitchen Giggles, which is spelled KITCHN, giggles.com.
Hello, and welcome to Let My People Eat, a podcast that provides satisfying talk about kosher nutrition. Here we clear through the clutter of nutrition speak, arm you with the clarity and confidence to eat, feel, and be your healthiest every day. I am Jill Scharfman, a board-certified holistic nutritionist living in Los Angeles.
And I'm Dr. Andrea Moskowitz, a neuroscientist and psychiatrist in Los Angeles. I use my training and experience to integrate positive lifestyle changes into my patients' lives.
Hey, Andrea.
Hey, Jill. How's it going?
It's going well. I've been testing something. You know me, I like to test things out.
I know.
So since I would say the end of Yontif in October, I have been trying out a gluten-free diet.
How's that going?
It's going actually really well. And the reason I did it is because I was experiencing really bad digestive issues. And I just was like, let me try this. I mean, I've been tested for celiac, and, they didn't find that I had celiac, but right. I was like, let me try this. This is something that people are doing. And even though I don't believe in eliminating one food group unless you really need to,
right.
And I have to say it has made a tremendous improvement in how I feel. So I wanted to dive into it a little bit more.
Okay.
And also, we got this email. Says, "Hi, Jill and Andrea. I've been gluten-free now for about 6 months. Even though I don't have celiac, I found that it has really helped my digestion. For a while, I was very bloated and burping, and now that's gone. But I find that I keep eating the same few things because my options are now limited. How do I come up with more kosher and gluten-free meals to share with my family? Thank you so much, Naomi." So me becoming gluten-free and then getting this email, I was thinking, maybe let's talk to somebody who has a lot of experience.
That sounds like a good idea.
In this area. So Jamie Feit is a registered dietitian who teaches busy moms how to prepare healthy, gluten-free, and kosher food that their families will enjoy without spending hours in the kitchen. With a master's degree in clinical nutrition from New York University, Jamie's been helping her patients meet their nutritional goals for over 20 years. She now runs her private practice in New York. Jamie lives with her husband, their 4 girls, and a large Bernedoodle in Westchester, New York. Hey, Jamie.
Hi, how are you?
We are good. We are doing well. So, I want to hear like how you're kind of like this expert now on kosher and gluten-free. So how did that come to be? And maybe we should talk about a little bit about what gluten is and explain it to people.
Okay, I can do all of that. Which do you
Okay.
want to hear about first?
Let's hear about your story and then we'll get into the details.
Okay. I have been a nutritionist for over 20 years. When I first got my nutrition degree, I actually worked at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, and I was working in the obesity and endocrine center of Mount Sinai. So my passion has always been to help patients learn how to change their nutrition, food and what they're eating to either lose weight or prevent them from becoming obese. So I have been doing that for years.
Okay.
About 2.5 years ago, my youngest daughter got diagnosed with celiac disease. So I have 4 girls, and my youngest one got diagnosed with celiac disease.
How old is she?
She's now 11 and a half.
Okay, so she got diagnosed when she was 9? Is that
about 9? But she had undiagnosed celiac disease for 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't know what was wrong with her, and we took her to many doctors. And even being as a health professional, nobody knew what was wrong with her until we found out.
Okay.
So I have a lot of experience with what gluten can do to you when you're eating it when you shouldn't be. And now I also have a lot of experience with what you can do to change your diet when you need to be gluten-free. And I have a lot of experience because I worked in endocrine just about celiac disease and gluten just from the endocrine perspective for the past 20 years.
Okay. All right. So let's talk now. What is gluten? A lot of people, hear gluten-free all the time, but I don't think people really understand what it is, what it means, where it's found.
So gluten is the protein that is found in all products containing wheat, barley, or rye.
And so, okay, sometimes oats. We'll get into that in a minute.
Sometimes,
right.
It actually doesn't contain oats. Oats is a problem of cross-contamination, not actually the oats.
Right.
So all things that contain wheat, barley, or rye have gluten protein in them. People that are gluten-free, it's an autoimmune disease where their body recognizes gluten as an invader and invades it like as if it was some, cancer molecule or other molecule that was attacking your body, and your body actually attacks the gluten.
So you're
like
saying
as if it was something dangerous.
Right. Yeah. Somebody who has celiac, not somebody who's gluten-free, somebody who has celiac. So it's actually very dangerous for somebody who has celiac disease to eat things with gluten because it causes this tremendous inflammation in their bodies.
It not only causes inflammation, it can cause like a host of a million other diagnoses as well. Like it can flatten your intestines, it ruins your digestive process, it can stop growth, it can stop bone growth, it can stop calcium deposits, you can get headaches, you can get a rash, you can get migraine. Like there's a whole host of side effects you can get when the immune system attacks gluten. Like it could take me an hour to tell you about all of them, but yes.
Right.
So it's dangerous for celiacs to have gluten.
Okay. So then, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, then you have people that are gluten allergy, which have an allergy to gluten. So it's not that it's an autoimmune disease where your body is attacking the gluten, but you actually are allergic to gluten the way you would be allergic to nuts or dairy or something like that. And then your symptoms are not life-threatening, like they're not, anaphylactic like nuts, but you'll have allergy type symptoms as opposed to serious symptoms like a celiac.
So what kind of symptoms would those be?
Like runny nose, itchy eyes, like any allergy, a rash, any kind of allergy type symptom that they would have from that. And then there's a third category of people that are just gluten insensitive.
Right.
And gluten insensitive is kind of what you were describing, Jill, whereas you feel better when you don't eat gluten, but there's no medical diagnosis that shows why you shouldn't eat gluten, but you are sensitive enough to the gluten protein that your body feels better and your digestive system works uniformly when you don't eat it.
So is this fairly new, this non-celiac gluten sensitivity? Is that something that has only recently people have found out? Or because I don't feel like the medical community really gives that much weight. When people say, oh, they feel better not eating gluten, and the doctor's like, well, you didn't test positive for celiac. I feel this is like a newer thing, but I could be wrong.
I feel like the whole issue of everything about gluten is not well studied by the medical profession. Mm-hmm. Even, for example, that my daughter had all kinds of symptoms for 3.5 to 4 years. None of her doctors or anyone I took there even knew to test for celiac.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I feel like it's just a field of unknown that is, because more and more people are being diagnosed with it, there's more and more awareness. And with the more and more awareness, people are learning about the other things like the allergy and the gluten insensitivity. And it is not that it's new, it's just that it's always been around, but people are more open to learning about it because they're seeing, and there are more advocacy groups for celiac disease that are pointing it out and in the media.
Right. And there's also, I think sometimes people, there are other carbohydrates that people might be somewhat sensitive to that they might mistake for celiac. Like, the FODMAPs and
correct,
which we'll probably do another episode explaining what that is. But if they're eating too many of these carbs, it will produce gas and cause digestive symptoms that could look like, a gluten sensitivity. We also spoke about in the episode we did about what the heck is organic. We talked about also how sometimes people don't have necessarily a gluten allergy sensitivity, but it's actually a glyphosate reaction that they're having to what is being sprayed on the crops that is causing their symptoms. So that's just something 100%, to keep in 100%. Mind. Okay.
And the problem with the celiac disease is that the symptoms of it are so similar to other things like Crohn's disease and IBS and other things that it's hard to diagnose.
Right. Yes.
Although those are also all autoimmune diseases.
Correct. But like if you go and say I have a stomach issue, they're not first saying, okay, let's test for celiac. Not like the first thing the doctors choose to test you with.
Right. Right. And also, do you give any credence to the kind of the placebo effect that people start feeling better because they start eliminating gluten? Like, I had to think about that for a second. Was this something that I really, staying away from gluten for these last, it's 6 weeks now when we're taping, but is there a placebo effect, or do you think it's definitely, or Andrea, maybe that's a better question for you.
Do you want me to answer?
You can answer first.
Sure,
you
go
can
ahead.
answer first, then yeah.
I was going to say, I think initially there could be a placebo effect, but the fact of the matter is if you are just gluten insensitive and you take away the gluten and you feel better, just the fact that you feel better is reason enough to continue with it. I would never recommend it for a weight loss purpose because it's not a weight loss diet. But if it is something that you are eating it and your digestion is going better and you feel better, then absolutely, that's fine.
Right. And I would say if you have less inflammation, because there is some reaction there, you probably, maybe somebody who couldn't lose weight before, it might make it a little bit easier for them because the body's not maybe working as hard as it has in the past.
So, sure.
Right.
So, okay. So things that, you avoid when you cook for your daughter, and tell me a little bit about your kitchen. Like, do you have any gluten in your kitchen? Do you keep things separate, or are you just a gluten-free home altogether?
When I started with keeping my home the same way it was and having a separate drawer of gluten for her and her things. And that was a disaster. It was a complete disaster because I was constantly policing her from touching her sister's plate and them, throwing stuff in her eye. Look what we're eating and you're not. And I very quickly after a week, I was like, enough of this. We're going all gluten-free. So I made the kitchen entirely gluten-free. I got rid of all my things that were problematic that couldn't be gluten-free. And I made the whole house gluten-free. And we were like that for a good 6 months until my husband and my teenagers were like, why do we have to be gluten?
Right.
So I cleaned my whole kitchen again, and I designated like a certain counter that has its own like beginning and end, that is the gluten counter. That is the only place that gluten is allowed. I bought a separate toaster. So they have a separate toaster, and I have a separate drawer in my freezer. So they can eat gluten only on that counter, and they can only keep gluten in one drawer in the freezer. So for example, if we have bagels, they can have a regular bagel. She gets a gluten-free bagel, or pizza, same thing like that. But when I cook, I only cook gluten-free food, because I don't want the cross-contamination in my kitchen.
Right. And how's she been doing? How's your daughter
She's
been doing?
great. Mm-hmm. She's doing great. But I'm saying the snacks I buy for the snack closet are 100% gluten-free. Mm-hmm. Everything I cook for dinner for Shabbat is entirely gluten-free. Mm-hmm. So I don't cook any gluten in my kitchen.
What happens when she is at school, when she goes to friends? I assume at 11 she might be invited to sleepovers. How do you handle that?
So I would say that is the biggest problem with someone that is gluten-free, is being out, because everywhere she goes is a problem. Like the kiddush in the synagogue is a problem. Birthday parties are a big problem. School lunch is a huge problem. Sleepovers are a huge problem. So I felt very strongly that there had to be one safe place that she could eat, that she knows that it's safe and she can eat whatever she wants. And that's why I changed the house to be 100% gluten-free.
Mm-hmm. Right. So she brings her own things from the house.
I send her with food everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And, there are a lot of processed gluten-free products out there, which, we want to limit processed foods in general, but I feel like people who are gluten-free, I think this also happens with vegetarians. They tend towards a lot more of those processed foods, instead of going with vegetables and fruits and nuts and seeds and all the good stuff. So how do you manage that in your house?
Okay, so that's exactly what I do with my business, and that is exactly why I do what I do, because I realized when she got diagnosed and I was cooking gluten-free is that I'm a busy mom. I have 4 kids, a dog, a husband, and I can still manage to make healthy gluten-free food for my family, and I'm not buying all those processed foods. That I felt like I had a duty as a nutritionist to share that with other people that were going through the same thing. Mm-hmm. Because it's hard enough to prepare healthy kosher food, but to prepare healthy kosher and gluten-free food is a nightmare.
Right.
So, and it's hard if you don't know what you're doing. And I'm a trained professional, and it's hard, but I manage it because I know what I'm doing. So for someone that's busy and kosher and gluten-free and not a health professional, it's really hard.
Yeah. So some of the other grains that you can choose would be like quinoa, brown rice, or regular rice, buckwheat, and just adding a lot more vegetables. Like I've been doing zoodles, which are zucchini noodles, spiralized. And you know what? Somebody just told me the other day they put them in their like soup also. Oh, yeah. And I was like, that's brilliant. How smart is that? But
you can make zoodles out of like parsnips or turnips so that they're white and then they look like noodles.
Yeah. So I haven't found it that much of a challenge. Again, like you, I might know a little bit more than the average person, but I haven't found this to be so much of a burden. And again, I don't have to totally eliminate gluten. Like I can have, when we wash on Friday night, I can have a little bit of challah and it's not going to tip me over the edge. So I found it has been manageable.
I think also for you, Jill, the difference is prior to doing your gluten-free experiment, you eat very healthfully. Mm-hmm. So you're always making like lots of vegetables, lots of fruits. You probably made different kind of grain side dishes in the past and things like that. I think it's hard. I don't think it's harder for somebody who goes from maybe not quite such a healthy lifestyle of food, sort of making quicker things or whatever. And then they realize like how much gluten they're using.
Well, I'll have to tell you when it really came to the forefront is when I went to New York a couple of weeks ago, and all of a sudden I realized I would totally eat a bagel every morning in New York, and then I would get a black and white cookie, or we would have rucolas or because you were in New York, and I was eating all that food, and I had made the decision to be gluten-free, and those things were just off the table.
Right.
So that's really when I noticed it the most. It was
traveling
and in that specific environment where I really did indulge in a lot of products that I don't have at home.
Right, exactly.
So, so let's see. What are some of the other things? Like, obviously beer, right? We want, not for your daughter, but.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, if you're in New York happens to have like two of like the greatest like kosher gluten-free restaurants that you could have gone to.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. No, did I go to any? I know I had them on my list, but yeah.
Okay. So like, By the Way Bakery has like the best, unbelievable kosher products, and everything in the bakery is dairy free. So it's not only gluten free, but it's all parb.
Yeah. Friday night, they brought it in from there when we went to somebody's house for dinner because I was gluten free. My daughter's gluten free. So she did bring it. It was delicious.
It's delicious, and you can get it everywhere in New York.
Right.
Yeah.
So
they even sell it in Whole Foods here.
Yeah.
Like little slices.
Oh, in New York. Yeah. Not here.
Yes.
Yeah. So a couple of other things. There are different names for wheat also. So it's not just,
it's an extensive list.
Right.
There's probably like 30 or 40 different names for wheat.
Right.
But I think it's safe to say that if you just avoided all wheat whatsoever, and like semolina and durum and those like, ones that are more common, plus rye and barley, and you really just stick to rice, potatoes, quinoa, sorghum, millet, buckwheat, things like that, you'll be okay.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times my daughter, who's gluten-free, she'll go to somebody's house for Shabbos. They'll be like, "Oh, we made you a spelt challah," and she's like, "Okay, thank you." I also, before we wrap up, want to point out there are a lot of condiments that include gluten. So that's another important thing when like we go out for Shabbos. And again, for me, it's not a problem if I have a little soy sauce in the, if they make meat and they use soy sauce or, but soy sauce is salad dressing, some malt vinegar, marinades, barbecue sauce, teriyaki sauce. All those do include gluten. So if you really
they can. There are wheat-free soy sauces.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, which are actually very nice. So.
What I do is I send I have an email in my notes, to copy and paste, like when we go somewhere, just explaining that, like, the family is not gluten free, but Hannah is gluten free. And the things that are most problematic are soy sauce, salad dressing, teriyaki, blah, blah, blah. And it's like a little list. And then I write like all the things she can have, like all fruits and vegetables and meat and chicken and like all the things. And then I say, don't worry, I'll bring her a gluten-free challah roll. If you have any questions, email me. So anywhere we go or a sleepover, whatever, I send that.
Right.
But it's a very convenient thing for anyone that's gluten-free to know. Just type it up, leave it in your notes, and then send it wherever you're going. Just people are aware, and people really appreciate it.
Right. Yeah. We have one family we always invite on Pesach because he has celiac, and this way he knows Pesach. We always have them come, and he's so happy because we don't have to worry about anything being contaminated with gluten.
Except the matzah, you get the matzah.
Well, so actually his wife brings the matzah. Yeah, she'll pick that up and she'll bring it. But we had it this year too. So it's great. Okay, Jamie. So why don't you tell us about your membership program that's starting soon?
Okay, so I'm in the middle of one right now that is ending. It was December, January, February. Yeah, December, January, February. So the new one is going to start the end of February, like beginning of March.
Okay.
And what it was developed to solve the problem of what to make for dinner for gluten-free and kosher busy moms. So every week they get a shopping list and a week's worth of recipes of what to make for dinner. They get the shopping list so they can go buy all the ingredients. They get the recipes of what to make for dinner. Then each week I have a live coaching module where I teach them something. So whatever I teach them, like today I did the module was about breakfast. So I talked about the importance of breakfast, and then they got 5 additional recipes for great, healthy, gluten-free kosher breakfast. So they get that also. And then I send them a copy of my cookbook. I send them a little kitchen gadget to help them easy cooking. And then they get to connect with all the other gluten-free kosher moms in the group, and they can chat with each other. And then I come in and I, go into all the chats and answer any questions that they have. and it's a 3-month program.
Wow, that's great. Okay, so I'm going to put the link to Jamie's membership program on the website. And Jamie, there's a discount for
yes,
our
I'll
listeners?
give them. We can use the code.
Okay.
Let My People Eat 20%, so you can abbreviate it,
right.
and I'll put it in.
Okay, it will be LMPE 20, and I'll put that also on the website. So thank you so much.
And the next group is starting in March.
Okay, great. So that should work out perfectly for when this episode airs. You can also follow Jamie on Instagram at Nutrition by Jamie, Jamie. She also has a Facebook page, Jamie Feit Nutrition. You can follow me on Instagram at Jill Sharfman. I want to thank our engineer today, Mike Casantini at the Network Studios. And Jamie, thank you so much for coming in.
This was really informative.
My pleasure.
Explaining
thank
all
you
this.
for having me.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. And that is it for this episode of Let My People Eat. Please visit our website at letmypeopleeat.com and leave us a comment. Get in touch at our email at podcast@letmypeopleeat.com or call us at 317-659-0004. Post on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook with the hashtag #LetMyPeopleEatPodcast. If you like this show, please make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Tell your friends and family, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts.
And please remember that although we are certified professionals, this is not a medical advice podcast. No content, posts, or comments should be interpreted as professional guidance. Always speak to your own health practitioner about making the right life changes for you.
Until next time, I am Jill Sharfman.
And I am Andrea Moskowitz.
Thanks for joining us.
And go in good health.